Welcome to my top 10 favorite photos of 2024. As the new year begins, I look back on the photos I've made during the previous year and pick 10 of my favorite ones. They're not necessarily the best photos I took all year, but they are 10 of the favorite ones that I took during this past year. In 2024, I had some months where I managed to get out a lot more doing photography than normal, while other months it was way under my typical numbers. When I did get out, I found a way to get my drone up more often, and my top 10 list reflects that this year. Despite using my camera far more often than my drone photos count for 6 of the top 10 in this list. The first photo that made the cut for this year was taken looking straight down from my drone at the southwest coast of Vancouver Island. I liked the way the waves rolled in and that they were shaped by the contours of the land. The different shades of gray in the rocky shoreline and the various textures in the photo all came together to make this special image for me. The next photo I selected is a long exposure shot of Goldstream Falls in Goldstream Park. Due to the location of the stump and the fact that it's not possible to get a straight-on shot of the falls because of the terrain, I decided to make the stump a feature in this photo. The path of the water from the bottom of the photo up and around the stump is meant to lead your eye towards the waterfall. Although I'd been to this location many times, if it wasn't for using the drone to check out the surface of the lake, I never would have thought this scene was anything interesting. The perspective gained when looking straight down really caught my eye. While the image may have had a cleaner look without the two people in the boat there, I thought they really added to the photo. In fact, I actually considered waiting until they left because they had only been on there a short time. But I didn't bother, as I really liked the look of this shot as it is. I learned of the location of my next photo from one of the most outstanding landscape photographers I know, Adam Gibbs. I made a video at this location, and if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link right here. To create this photo, I backed up so that some branches and leaves were hanging nearer to the camera and give that sense of depth. It's a long exposure that I used some of the Case magnetic filters on. One was a circular polarizer to cut the glare and give that richness of color, and the second one was a neutral density filter, which allowed me to get a long exposure and smooth out the water. My fifth photo is one I've been trying to get for years, and I finally got it. On my first attempt, I only had my camera and not a drone, so I really couldn't get a great angle on this for a decent composition that I wanted. The next time I was in the area, I had the drone with me, but there were no spots to be seen because at certain times of the year, they just don't show up the same. On my third try, I actually managed to get the drone up in a good position at the right time of year, and the spots were clearly visible. I came away with a bunch of interesting shots, and this one here is my favorite out of that group. The conditions might not have been quite perfect, but I'm really happy with the results. While I enjoy traveling for photography, whether it's on Vancouver Island or much farther away, sometimes some of the best shots can be got close to home. There's a path not far from my home that follows a small river for a short distance. I've been there a number of times, but it overlooked this next tree in this photo. As is often the case with trees in forested areas, it can be difficult to find the best angle to photograph it from. Often branches or underbrush get in the way, other trees just make it impossible to get that great shot. Lighting is another thing that can be blocked out by trees in a forest. I was able to get into a position this time, though, that allowed me to feature this tree while using it to frame the path. This is a place I want to return to in different conditions, hopefully get some fog sometimes, maybe some people in the distance, because I know I can get an even better shot out of this. The last 4 photos on this year's list for me are all from my Yukon trip, which I took in early September, just as the autumn colors were really starting to come out. While I didn't see any large wildlife or aurora on the trip like I had hoped to, what I did see was spectacular. When planning the trip, there were certain spots that I really wanted to visit and photograph, and I also wanted to explore and find scenes that I hadn't seen anywhere else. One of those locations I hadn't heard about had the remains of a ghost town with several wooden structures in various states of collapsing. I thought this lone house, set in front of the bright foliage with the mountains in the background, would make for a very interesting photo. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this and any of the other photos that I've shown in this video. Please put a comment below. If you'd followed me for any length of time, you'd know that I love waterfalls, and one of the spots on my wish list to check out was a waterfall that turned out to be difficult to photograph due to limited accessibility and very restricted angles which I could shoot from. But I was able to come away from it with a photo that I liked. There was a little tree dressed in autumn colors growing on the near bank and stretching out over the rushing water. To me, this was much more interesting than the angles I could get on that waterfall. Well, I love my normal camera, a Canon R5. The next shot is one that I couldn't have got with it because the view was restricted by some trees, which would have blocked out much of the lake and the reflection on it. Once again, I relied on my drone to get a vantage point that otherwise would have been unattainable, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. And for the final shot on my top 10 list of 2024 photos, I'm getting up above the trees with the drone again, and this afforded me the opportunity to see the river and a nice line of green trees that followed it up the valley. A little bit of yellow blended in there for some added color, and the reds of the brush around led the eyes all the way to the snow-capped mountain at the end in the distance. Looking ahead to 2025, I plan on getting out with my camera more regularly, even if it's just going to be close to home, as there's always something interesting, like I mentioned, to see and photograph close to home or anywhere else you might be. Along with more frequent photography outings, I want to get my photos in front of more people. This includes more frequently on YouTube, as well as Instagram and other social media. If you've enjoyed viewing this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and I'm going to have lots more great content coming. Hope you all have a fantastic 2025.